The Philippines isn't cursed by earthquakes. It's positioned where Earth's crust is constantly in motion. That's why the country is ringed by deep offshore trenches, while major faults slice across the islands. But here's the key question. Is it just one thing moving here? No. This is a connected system. So in this video, we'll travel from east to west across the Philippines, one boundary at a time, to see the full picture. And we'll clarify one practical hazard idea. Offshore trenches are more linked to tsunami potential, while inland faults are more linked to strong ground shaking. Now, pay attention. On the eastern side of Luzon, facing the Philippine Sea, is the East Luzon Trough. It's not mentioned as often as the West Valley Fault or the Manila Trench, but it supports one key idea. The Philippines is not defined by a single trench or a single fault. It's offshore and easy to forget, but the motion continues in the background. Further along the east is the Philippine Trench, stretching from the Bicol region down through eastern Visayas and toward eastern Mindanao. PHIVOLCS has said the Philippine Trench is capable of generating earthquakes up to around magnitude 8.2. But outcomes still depend on rupture extent, depth, and how rupture behaves. There is no scientific method to identify the exact date of the next release. Farther south near Mindanao is the Cotabato Trench, another offshore subduction zone. It's easy to think Mindanao quakes come from one source, but the system is more complex. Multiple offshore and inland boundaries can be active. The 2019 sequence is a reminder. The region is active, and sources can vary. Moving west into the Sulu Sea area, there is the Sulu Trench, part of a more complicated tectonic setup in the southwestern Philippines. Between Panay and Negros is the Negros Trench, and this is where a key concept becomes clear. When the source is offshore, the question is not only how strong, but also how close, how shallow, and how the coastline is oriented. Risk is not a single number. It's a combination of distance, depth, and exposure. PHIVOLCS has also said the Negros Trench is capable of generating earthquakes around magnitude 8.2. Turning to the northwest, offshore from Ilocos, down past the Zambales-Bataan area and toward Mindoro, there is the Manila Trench. This trench is often discussed because it sits close to many populated coastlines. PHIVOLCS has said the Manila Trench is capable of generating earthquakes up to around magnitude 8.2. Again, outcomes depend on event conditions, and there is no exact date. Here's the most important tectonic rule. Quiet doesn't mean due soon. It doesn't mean the system is asleep. Quiet often means stress is building, slowly, silently. And when it finally releases, that's when strong shaking can happen. Now shift the view inland. From northern Luzon down through Masbate, Leyte, Surigao, and into Mindanao, there is the Philippine Fault Zone, a major strike-slip system. PHIVOLCS has cited that the Philippine Fault Zone can generate major earthquakes up to about magnitude 7.9. When a segment releases, it can produce strong ground shaking. And what people feel is shaped not only by earthquake size, but also by distance and ground conditions. Near Metro Manila and surrounding provinces is the West Valley Fault. This is why preparedness is discussed so often. It lies close to dense population and critical infrastructure. PHIVOLCS scenario studies show that very strong shaking is possible if the segment ruptures. But this is not a date prediction. It is a risk scenario meant to guide preparation. So why does the Philippines have so many trenches and faults? Because it sits between major plates to the east and west, and in between are smaller blocks that form the Philippine Mobile Belt. Think of it like a squeeze, pressure from both sides. Offshore, that builds subduction zones. On land, that drives major strike-slip faults. That's why the Philippines is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Location is the reason. Geology is the reason, not fate. One final reminder: plate motion is slow, centimeters per year. Quiet, easy to miss. But stress can build for a long time and release in a moment. If this video helped, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, not to spread fear, but to support knowledge and readiness.